Hey, Tom Lounge is here for The Song is the Vehicle, and I'll tell you what, it's an exciting night here at the MAC at the College of DuPage. We have got the Ides of March 50th anniversary. I'm hanging out, if you notice, by the stage door, because coming up in just a few minutes, we've got some of Chicago's best and greatest musicians all walking through this door to pay homage to the 50th anniversary of this great band out of Berwyn. Coming up in just a few minutes, I'll be talking to Tom Doody of the Cryan Shames, Jimy Sohns of Shadows of Night, Scott May of the Ides, and of course, it wouldn't be an interview without getting the man himself, Jim Peterick, who wrote all these great songs that we will be celebrating tonight. So stay with us, because coming up, all those great talents will be talking to us right here on The Song is the Vehicle.
I've got a little woman, take the towel. She said she loved me. He says, hey, Jimmy boy, leave my door alone. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell me if this is now I go. Rock and roll. We good? Here's to a great show, guys. You're here.
I've got Tom Doody of the Cryan Shames here. Tom, nice to meet you. You were part of that big group of bands that just put Chicago on the map in the 1960s. And I've got to wonder, with The Flock and Chase and the Ides and the Cryan Shames and the Shadows of Night and the Buckinghams and so many bands, who were your favorites, besides the Cryan Shames, of course? I'm sure you're a little biased.
Well, yeah, I am. I thought we were really good. But to be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here helping them celebrate their 50th year as a group, I always liked the Ides of March. And the reason I liked them, very solid band. They played very, very solid. Great singers. I mean, when they were kids when they did their first song. They were wonderful singers, and I always enjoyed them. All of the other groups I enjoyed too. I mean, we were all friends, we were all in competition, but I loved listening to them sing and play. But I really enjoyed the Ides of March.
Now, the national press, of course, we had Dick Biondi and we had Dex Carden and Clark Webber and all these great DJs and media people that supported Chicago's rock.
Yes, they did.
The national media at large, they always give props to Chicago blues.
Right.
And we always hear about the 60s bands from L.A. and New York.
Right.
It seems like they've overlooked the Chicago pop and rock scene. Do you feel that way as an insider?
Yeah, kind of. And it's surprising to me because, when we were doing that, not only were disc jockeys huge, but the Beatles were in full bloom. The Rolling Stones were in full bloom. And all of the Chicago groups had that kind of a feel. Mm-hmm. Not only an English feel, but we also had the Chicago feel. We didn't play the blues, but we had a very raucous, raw sound that you didn't get at other places. They were slick like New York or Los Angeles. And I'm very surprised that the national press still doesn't give props to the groups from Chicago. Although we have some records that have been re-released, I get things from Australia, from England, from all over the United States saying, my God, I didn't know this stuff existed. This has become my favorite stuff. And that makes you feel really good. But, that was Chicago. That was what
the fans remember.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the media sometimes,
The fans still do remember, but they're getting to be my age, and our memories just kind of fade.
Well, I'm going to ask you another memory, and that is we are here to celebrate the Ides of March 50th anniversary. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Jim Peterick has been a part of so many different bands over the years. Yeah. Do you remember the first time you met Jim?
I remember the first time I met the whole group.
Okay, tell us.
It was in LaGrange, and we were just changed our name to the Cryan Shames. And I think they were called Batman and the Boy Wonders. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. And we played a battle of the bands. We were a good group. We thought we would blow everybody off stage. Second group one on it was Batman and the Boy Wonders, and it really made me think, my God, are we going to win this thing? And then about 3 or 4 months after that, I heard You Wouldn't Listen by a group called the Ides of March. I found out that was them, and I went, my Lord. That was before Sugar and Spice came out.
Right.
I still think that's a phenomenal song.
What is your single best memory of the Chicago 1960s music scene?
You know what, and this sounds funny, but rehearsing for jobs that we used to do, the creative process that we used to go through to put the songs together, even more than huge sold-out venues, which I loved. I'm a stage freak and I loved it. But the thought, and it keeps coming back in my mind, when we were in the Blue Village, we would be on the stage and we would practice 7 hours a day when we weren't playing. Mm-hmm. And we put together things like, well, our whole second album we did there. And those are my fondest memories, the whole creative process. And also the fact that we practiced so darn hard. We knew when we went on stage that it was going to be killer, that people were going to sit there slack-jawed, and they did. I mean, we were that much of perfectionists and we worked that hard at it. So I know it's funny, but practices were the things I remember the most.
Well, you know, that is the Chicago work ethic.
It is the Chicago work ethic. All of these guys out here went through the same thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody did the same thing, worked hard. And I'm sure if you talk to them, they'll say, yeah, I remember this and this and this, but I remember being in Larry's basement when we would put together a vehicle. I'm serious. Yeah, it just sticks with you, and it's a great memory.
Let's ask one final question, and that is Jim Peterick, one of the most prolific songwriters I've ever met. He has had hits for everybody. Yeah. If you could pick one Jim Peterick composed song of any era, any band, what would it be?
There's no question, none whatsoever, L.A. Goodbye. I think it's the best song he ever wrote.
Now, you're going to be performing tonight as part of this 50th anniversary, correct?
I am.
What are you going to be performing?
I'm going to do Sugar and Spice.
Okay.
Going to do a Carole King song, which she wrote for me. I told her that. Up on the roof.
Okay.
and Could Be We're in Love.
I love that song.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm glad you're doing that one.
All right. I do too.
Tom, thank you so much. Very much
Very nice
enjoyed
meeting
talking
you.
with you.
Good talking
All right.
to you.
All right. Shadows of Night. We're a huge band on the Chicago scene. We had so many great
You mean
talents.
we're not anymore?
Yeah, you still are. You still are. You'll always be
49
huge.
years. I got 2 more months to go for my 50-year anniversary. So.
And you're planning it, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to that in just a second. Back in the 60s, we had The Flock, Chase, Ides of March, Buckingham, Shadows of Night, on and on and on.
Mods.
Rotary Connection, the Mods.
Cryan Shames, New College 6, blah, blah, blah. Little Boy Blues. Let's not forget little Jimmy, whatever his name was. Jimmy Boyce, the drummer. There you go.
Of all those bands, it seems like the Shadows of Night hit the stride by getting on Bandstand. Were you the first one?
I think we were. I'm pretty sure we were, because the New Colony hit there. I Confess was out a little bit before Gloria, but it was more of a Midwest hit, the big one, until they got their bigger ones later on.
So you were the first Chicago band to hit that, as far as I remember. What was the memory of actually being on with Dick Clark?
What a great guy he was. What a great memory he had. You know, I went on for a long time. I was a sound engineer, and that in the band that was the Boys from Illinois. Mm-hmm. Right. And I was their road manager, sound man, traveling with them. And that was like 77 or something like that. And it was weird because when we went to do the show, we walked in and Dick was talking with some people, and all of a sudden he stops everything and he goes, "Hey, that's Jimy Sohns, the lead singer of the Shadows Night that sang Gloria." And I couldn't remember all the people he meets that he remembered me from.
Clearly
that.
a fan.
So he was really sharp.
What's your favorite single memory of the Chicago 60s rock scene?
This would be funny. The very first time I heard Gloria on the radio, they always ask you, when was the first time you realized you were a rock star? So I was sitting in Arlington Heights McDonald's in my mid-12-second 442 race car, because I was a street racer.
Okay.
There was this girl who everybody tried to nail, and she would never get in the car and take a ride with me. And it was like 3:40 in the afternoon. I had Dick's card on. All of a sudden, I'm eating a double cheeseburger, and I hear it. And I turn it up, and here I am. All of a sudden, I realize I got mustard on my face. I'm eating a double cheeseburger, and every radio in there has got it turned up, looking at me. And this girl knocks on the window, and she had this signature things about her.
Things about her.
She bent over and she said, "Hey, you want to take that ride?" And I knew right then I was a rock and roll star.
Life was good all of a sudden.
It was good all of a sudden.
All right. The 60s were a pretty wild time.
You could say that. You'd be right.
What was it like to actually travel and tour outside of Chicago? It seems
Well,
like the Chicago scene really supported its own. Did
Oh,
the
it
Shadows
did,
get
but
it?
I think the first place we went to out of Chicago, which we at that time we did Valparaiso, Rockford. That was being on the road. And I remember the first time flying into New York City. We came in the middle of the night. It was like 11:30 at night, and we flew over the Statue of Liberty. And then I sat back there and said, "Man, nobody's going to know who we are." And boy, we broke the Rascals attendance records and everything. And we met the very first wave of real groupies. Cherry Vanilla and
I know
Blaster.
Cherry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Pamela Duvall.
Okay.
And all that stuff. So it was pretty neat. And then we toured the Rolling Stones, and I've never quite been the same since.
Jim Peterick, of course, along with the Ides, did a little band called Survivor, has World
Oh, yeah.
Stage and Pride of Lions, and you name it, he's written for them.
I know.
Of all the different Jim Peterick compositions of all the years, of all the eras, do you have a favorite?
Probably You Were With Me All the While.
Okay, any particular reason?
I think at that particular time I was incarcerated. The only time I was ever out of the shadows, I was in Jimy Sohns and the Cons,
Okay.
and we were good. But I think I was away, and I heard that song, and it made me think of all these different girls I'd tried, and I realized that the girl that I'd been seeing through the whole thing was the girl, and that's my wife, by the way.
Jimy Sohns, Shadows of Night.
I'm just hoping that Jimmy Peterick's talent wears off on me.
Might need a little more purple, a little more.
Well, I'm trying, and I'm still waiting for that song he was going to write me 20 years ago. I'll take it now, though.
Let's do it now.
Let's do it now. There. Let's do it now.
Do it now.
Not later.
Not later.
I've been waiting.
I've been waiting.
Oh yeah.
That's all.
There you go. That's what we got.
Million Seller. You heard it here.
Do it now.
I got to tell you, it's an exciting night.
I feel like we're paying tribute to them. That's the way I feel. We just cooked this up. We go, let's get the guys out here. We're all growing up together, all in the teen clubs together, all getting hit records. We had this friendly competition. I will always think about you went number one, and we go, oh yeah, watch this, and we put out Vehicle. Watch this, and then the Cryan Shames get Could Be We're in Love, and we go, okay, watch this. We do LA Goodbye, and it was just this friendly competition.
Looking back all those years ago, did you ever think that at one day you'd be sitting here on camera 50 years later saying, we're still doing it?
Never. When you're young, you don't think of ahead. You think about the here and now. And that's the wonderful thing about being young. You don't think about tomorrow. It just happens. And you're right, time flies. It's like a blink of an eye.
Last question, because I know you got to get ready to play, and that is, Chicago gets props worldwide for its blues scene. All the blues legends were here. Chess Records was here. It seems like when you talk pop and rock, New York and L.A. get all the props. Chicago's an afterthought. Yet we have all these great bands. We have, of course, Chase, and we've got the Rotary Connection, and all the bands here tonight. Cryan Shames,
American Breed.
American Breed. I mean, just so many.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why do you think that is?
I wish I knew. We're always been the second city. We're not the most demonstrative. We're not, drug addicts, and I'm not saying those other bands are, but we're not sensational. We're blue collar and we do our thing. Doesn't make headlines all the time, but there's a great scene here.
Tom Doody had a great quote, and that was, he said, part of what makes Chicago great is the fact that the bands worked so hard to be good. It's that Chicago work ethic. Would you agree with that?
It is the work ethic. And, one time we went to a Cryan Shames rehearsal. These guys, Jim Ferris, we called him Jim in the day. Now it's James. But anyway, he worked those guys so hard over and over and over. But that's why when we went to the Blue Village to see him, we were like, holy mackerel,
Wow.
that good. And the Ides always aspired to be that good.
50 years later, any final words before you take that stage for the big anniversary to the fans?
And as I board, what key is this? Man, I better get in my key. And as I board my plane, something inside my brain hates to wave LA goodbye. and lay goodbye. I did that for you, Tom. 'cause I
Thank
know
you.
love it.
I do. All right, Jim Peter, get ready to go on stage. The Ides 50th anniversary. Can you believe it? And look how young he still looks. We are here once again with Ronnie Rice of the New Colony 6 at the 50th anniversary of the Ides of March. Can you believe it, Ronnie? 50 years.
You're telling me. Oh, I don't have to go right that close, do I? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Ides deserve it. They're great people. Every one of you that was on the program tonight were down-to-earth people. There's no ego in this program, whether you might think so or not. These are really home guys, Chicago guys, and I think most of the guys that come out of Chicago are that way. And the crowd was so unbelievable. Great people, great group, and great time. It was unbelievable. I had a ball here.
Ronnie, what's your very favorite memory of the Chicago 60s rock scene?
I think being with all the people that you meet during that era, and everybody that was here tonight had met a lot of people. Now, if you know, I'll tell you the one person that's met everyone in the world. That's Dick Biondi right there. And you talk about meeting and being with people. So I think meeting people was one of the fun things of being in the band. The people were so nice. And, I think nobody knows they're going to have a hit record or not. When you do get lucky with a hit record, that's the best feeling. And getting that adulation from the audience, there's nothing better. Nothing. Well, sex maybe. Food. Cheeseburgers. No, but anyway, yeah.
Speaking of feast and famine, let's get Dick Biondi over here real quick and reprise what you missed if you weren't at the show tonight. Dick, you told an interesting story about Ronnie Rice as a young man. Would you repeat that for the audience, please?
Yeah, well, he used to go to Evanston High School, where he graduated from, and I lived about 6 blocks away. And every morning he'd knock at the door and he'd say, "You got any free records for me?" Because I'd get the
promos.
DJ promos. Mm-hmm. And he'd go home, and he must have been a good learner because he turned into one heck of a great singer.
Oh, what a nice guy. Well, I remember when I met him, and he's legit. That's actually sincere. I found it from one of the kids at Evanston High School where he lived. Now, who's going to bug the guy? The guy's the hottest thing on the air. And I'm going, yeah, I'll bug him. So I go over there and I knock on his door. And by the way, remember I handed you a demo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then well, first of all, he was so nice. Now, you don't go up to somebody's house and they don't know you. He goes, "Come on in." I mean, this is a real thing. And it's just, look what happened. If I didn't meet him, and this is true, if I did not meet Dick, I would not have met the people that were besides the Colony, because the Colony I met way later. I had my first record on WLS thanks to this guy, and that was back in 1961. Right. And it was on a top 40 at Silver Dollar Survey. And again, thanks.
That was as a solo artist?
Oh, yeah. And that's where I got all that nice stuff from him. I mean,
he's a very talented young man and very kind. And I got to mention that this show tonight was long overdue. And as I told Jimmy and the rest of them, one thing was missing, I think, and that was somebody from the group Chicago. I wish they had been here. And
tell them what you think think about that.
I think
we need to talk about that.
I already said it, but it's very true. For my money, they could tear down the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland and throw it into the lake. I mean, if you notice, we had here tonight 5 the Buckinghams, Ides of March, Ronnie Rice, Cryan Shames, and then you have all the others. And not one of them is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What? New York's got everybody, LA's got everybody, and the idiots that are running it over there, they don't care. How can you not put Chicago, of all groups?
Right.
You know how many millions of records they sell?
Yes. So, for my money, it's not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame.
Ooh, good one.
I think we need to get our own rock and roll hall here in the city of Chicago.
Amen. That's a great thing to get started, and put it right down there in the corner of State and Randolph, and or State and Michigan, and just let Cleveland rot.
Dick, one last question, and that is, back in the day, I'm a disc jockey myself, and back in the day, you guys got to pick your own music. We hear all these great stories on how you guys broke bands. You broke the Chicago bands. Right. Ron Britton, of course, broke Airplane and groups like that. You played the Beatles first. What was it like then to actually be able to mold the tastes of America as opposed to playing a playlist?
Well, first of all, until I came to Chicago, I had that freedom. I could play but when I came to Chicago, then Sam Holman, who was the greatest program director ever, Sam picked the music, but he allowed every jock to pick one record a week for their pick. And it was a great feeling, and it was a great way to do. And it's amazing how people that we played records for in 1960, or in my case, back in 1955, when I was in Youngstown, Ohio, still coming up and saying thank you.
61 degrees, the Dick Biondi Show. Let's be happy. Here's the first of our oldies as we celebrate the 3rd anniversary of WLS. On top of a pizza, all covered with cheese.
The only thing that would have made tonight's show better is if we would have had an encore of On Top of a Pizza.
Well, I know it, but
He knows his stuff.
yeah, that would have been fun. But that was a very great song, and it's still very popular, and a lot of people are still using it for something that is very good. Whenever they have company and it gets too boring, they put my song on and they're gone.
Dick Biondi, thank you so much for all the years.
And everybody keep looking at this wonderful Peter Rick blog. I guarantee you're going to have a lot of wonderful times.
Let's take it back 50 years. The Ides were just starting. The Buckinghams, I think, were still the Pulsations back then?
Yeah, well, we weren't even,
65?
65 is when we sort of the transition. We were the Pulsations for only a few months, and then when we got invited to be on that WGN show, All Time Hits, they changed our name to the Buckinghams. They wanted to capitalize on the British invasion, and that was so. Somebody from the show, we became friends with one of the guys that was a security guard there. This guy John O'Pager, and John came up with a few names, but one of them that stuck was the Buckinghams. We couldn't believe that somebody wasn't using that,
right.
with the British invasion and everything. So we started doing the show that way. But as the Buckinghams, it was a 13-week variety show called All Time Hits. And but the Ides, they were out there a year before us in '64, the 50-year anniversary now. And we were so impressed with those guys because they got a record deal, on the Parrot label.
Right.
And I was impressed because I was a big fan of the Zombies. The Zombies were on that label. And I'm going, wow, they got a record deal. We got to do that. Thank God for Chicago radio back then, WLS, WCFL. They really supported back then, local bands. If they like your record, they'd put it on the air, and in a rotation, and that really helped a lot. So those early songs like I'll Go Crazy and I Call Your Name and I've Been Wrong and Lottie Miss Claudie, we were getting significant airplay, which kind of launched us out in the tri-state area anyway, in the Midwest.
When did you know, when was that aha moment that you knew you had made it? You'd made the right decision to become a performer. Was it bandstand? Was it hullabaloo? Was it hearing yourself on the radio the first time? What was that aha moment?
Well, the aha moment probably was when Don't You Care came out, and that first record with Gercio on Columbia Records, and then we did some national TV like American Bandstand and Jerry Lewis Show and the Smothers Brothers Show. We did it all pretty much around the same time in '67, and that was when you felt like this is we made it. This is big, and of course I always say this in our show. The epitome of success back then was getting invited on the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, that was big. That was in '68, But being able to do that show was, you were just overwhelmed with, you're thinking, wow, Elvis was in this room on this stage, the Beatles, the Stones.
What was Ed like? Do you remember any special moments with him?
Not really. He was pretty aloof and said hello, but he didn't really, kibitz hang out or talk
what
to
you
you
saw on
much.
screen
It
is
was,
about what you
yeah,
got.
he was kind of stiff with us. You know,
Okay.
he seemed to be a little looser with the Beatles when they
Right.
were on. You know, but that was the Beatles. You know.
Well, since we're here for the Ides of March 50th anniversary tonight, let me close out by asking you two questions. One, when was the first time, or do you have any special memories of the first time you met the Ides of March?
Well, the first time I remember was, you know, we would play some venues together, you know, around Chicago, some of the dances, you know, and I can't, to tell you the truth, I can't remember specifically what was that first one, you know, but I remember playing those venues with, you know, Jim Peterick always tells the story. Our original drummer, John Polis, he was with him one night after a show, and he says, "Well, so what's going on? You know, we got this record coming out," and Jim said, "Well, what is it?" And John, it was almost like he was embarrassed. This is what the story Jim tells. He says, it was kind of a jam. And Jim, what was that? King of a drag? What did you say? And he says, kind of a drag. You know, he said it so crazy. It was almost like, Jim said it was almost like he was embarrassed to say what it was or title. I don't know why. But, you know, it's kind of funny, you know, that, and here's the song that comes out and becomes a #1 record for us, you know. But, you know, the great, you know, it was just such a great time, you know, to make music, to be a part of that in Chicago, in the Chicago area. And there were that's what was great. There were so many venues for us to cut our teeth on, to learn and experiment with, and people were listening. And you know, we almost became like the house band at the Holiday Ballroom, you know, and we were playing there every Friday night. And when Carl Bonifetti and Dan Belloc took interest in us, because he said people would be out on the dance floor dancing, you know, having a great time, whoever was playing. But whenever we played, everybody stopped dancing and they came to the front of the stage and they just watched, you know. So they said, oh, that told them something.
Yeah.
There was something
There's
special
some kind of chemistry there.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
you know, great times.
Last question, and that is, of course, Jim Peterick not only wrote great songs with the Ides, but Survivor. He's got Pride of Lions, all these different fringe groups, 38 Special. Of all the Jim Peterick compositions, if you had to pick a Desert Island song, one favorite that you could take with you, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. L.A. Goodbye.
A lot of folks like that song. Why does that resonate with you?
Well, I don't know. I'm real attracted to that acoustic, that almost an unplugged sound, you know, and the harmonies were so beautiful, and the guitar. You know, as you know, I played for many years after the Buckinghams, the first Buckinghams, and when we broke up in the 60s, and Dennis Tufano and I had Tufano and Giammarese, and we did a lot of that, you know, kind of folky, kind of, you know, we were in that singer-songwriter bag, like, you know, a James Taylor thing, you know, and that Jackson Browne, and we were listening to music like that, and I always embraced that, you know. There's something special. I still like to just pick up an acoustic guitar and sing a song, you know. And L.A. Goodbye is one of those two, you know, and to me a great song is, if it's a great song, you should be able to sit down, strip it down, take all the production out of it, and just play it on a piano or on a guitar and sing it, and it should still
Be a great song.
translate to and be a great song, you know, if it's a great song, you know. And L.A. Goodbye is one of those tunes. I mean, I've heard Jim play it. We rehearsed because him and I did some things together, you know, just unplugged. And when we'd, you know, just listening to him play it on his guitar and sing it, it still came across, you know, it still got you, you know, and it's really, so I like that song. And the Ides, like I said on stage, are just, you know, 50 years. I mean, that's a long time. And what's special about them is that 50 years, but they don't just rely on that's what's unique on their past. You know, they're always creating new stuff.
3 new songs tonight.
Yeah, they're always doing new things, and I think that's what makes them different than a lot of the groups from back in the day, you know.
Carl Giammarese of the Buckinghams, thank you so much.
Thank
Always
you so
a pleasure.
much, Tom. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
This was a lot of fun tonight. I think everybody had a great time, so we'll keep going. Us
All
old
right.
rockers are going to keep right on going.
I've got Scott May of Ides of March with us. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
How you doing?
Now, what's it like to be the new guy in the band?
Well, I'm really not the new guy anymore. I've been with the band for 24 years. The new guy would be Steve Eisen, the sax player. And then after that, Tim Bales. Then after that is Dave, and he was with us for 22 years.
Okay, and you've been 25 now.
24, going to be 25.
Now, the story that I have heard is that you were a big Ides of March fan, and well, obviously still are, and the opening came up, and you auditioned, and your dream came true. Is that about right?
No.
Okay, set that record straight.
Well, I mean, when the Ides got back together in 1990 to play Berwyn Summer Fair, they didn't have a full-time keyboard player. Larry, on guitar, used to play Hammond organ with the band, and they needed a keyboard player. And I know Peterick for years. I know Larry for years. It's just, wait a minute, Berwyn. Let's get Scott. We know him. He knows all the songs. He went to the right schools, and I don't think there were any auditions. I just got the job. So
okay.
They called me, and they said, Scott, would you like to play with the Ides? I said, let me think. Yes.
Do you remember your first gig with them? What was it like?
Well, the first gig was in front of 20,000 people in the back of Cermak Plaza in Berwyn for Berwyn Summer Fair in 1990. It was the whole reason the band got back together, and these guys, they're really great at putting you at ease and making you feel like one of the guys, and I just had a bunch of fun. It was great.
Tell me what your very favorite Ides of March song is. I'm going to put you on the spot because you play them all. You guys play them well, but what is that personal favorite you can't wait to get to every night on stage?
Well, I'm going to say Vehicle, pretty much. I mean, Vehicle's always a gas. L.A. Goodbye is always, I love to sing L.A. Goodbye. I love to hear the vocals coming back. Well, we used to have monitors. Now we have in-ears. But L.A. Goodbye is always a gas. But Vehicle's always, come on. It's a timeless classic, and I'm playing it, It's great.
Let's talk about Jim Peterick, the songwriter. Now, of course, aside from the Ides, he's done Survivor, World Stage, he's got Pride of Lions, all these great bands over the years. Is there one particular Jim Peterick composed song that is a favorite of yours from any era, any band?
Number one song right off the bat is a song called Layback that was off of the fourth Ides album. Is a song that when I hear Jim sing it, it brings me to tears because the song's just got a wonderful message, and Jim sings it just incredibly great. But it's been my favorite Peterick composition, for a million years. And it's an acoustic song. About every 7 or 8 years, I bug them and I say, let's do it, and we do it. I mean, but, our acoustic set's always, L.A. Goodbye. But Layback from the fourth album was also on Jim's first solo album called Don't Fight the Feeling. Great version of it. And if you can find the album Midnight Oil by the Ides of March on RCA, Layback, what a tune, man. That's the fast answer, and that's the right answer.
All right, very good. One last question, and that is, as a fan of Chicago rock of the 60s, who would you pick as some of your very favorite bands, besides the Ides, of course?
I'm playing with them all tonight. Tom Doody and the Cryan Shames. What can you say? I said the East Coast has Art Garfunkel, the West Coast had Carl Wilson. We had Tom Doody of the Angelic Voice. Ronnie Rice and the New Colony Six. Dennis and Carl of the Bucks. The first rock and roll song I ever heard on WLS radio that I liked was Gloria by the Shadows of Night. And we're going to perform all those songs tonight. And I'm not just saying that because we're here, but that's what I grew up with,
All right. Any closing comments about hitting the big 50 mark here with the Ides?
Well, it's we'll see at the 100 year probably, but it's been great. I'm very, very pleased and very, very proud to be a member of this band. They taught me a lot. The guys taught me a lot. They're great friends, but it's been a practical education. It's been a lot of fun, and always loved the fans have been great. And we got a sold-out house plus tonight, and then I get to play with all my heroes, Chicago rock heroes. And I get to get interviewed by you. Hey, what's not to like?
All right. Scott May, Ides of March, thank you so much. Break a leg tonight.
50 years, wow, unbelievable. But doesn't seem that long ago that we were going to places like the Cellar or teen clubs to see the Ides of March and the Buckinghams and the Cryan Shames and the Shadows of Night and the New Colony Six. And Jim Peterick always at the forefront of the best Chicago rock. And when we did the show on Channel 11, How Chicago Rocked the 60s, and went back and looked at those top 40 surveys, the old WLS Silver Dollar survey, and there were times when 4, 5, 6, 7 Chicago bands were in that top 40 at once. So congratulations on a great career, Jim, and helping Chicago continue to rock as we were in the 2000s. And by the way, I do remember early on liking You Wouldn't Listen, and I also remember early on, I think on BBM FM in 1971, mispronouncing your name. And somebody called up, I don't know if it was you or Karen, and said, "Tell Sirott it's not Jim Peterick,